Thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. I'd like to kickstart the news review by celebrating my team. It's a lovely team. We've had some good laughter this morning right before I came on air. And I'd like to celebrate Yao for Sin. Yao for Sin, my director. He knows I'm up to mischief. I'd like to celebrate Derek Ekosam. No one calls him Derek. In here, we all call him Eko. Nicholas Yamwa, and the rest of the crew. Yes, I've forgotten some of the names, but sound technician, the camera people, you don't see them, but every day they are ensuring that I'm looking good on air. And everyone who makes the show happen, including national service personnel and interns. We have a fantastic team here. I have to say it today, and I feel truly blessed. So I love you guys. Anyway, let's settle now for the news review right here on the AM show. It's brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. What's the state of your prostate? Do you know? Take care of yourself. You want to live long. This temple is God's. Make the most of it. If you're a woman, what's your fertility like? Many women are walking around with so many complications with their fertility. They'll never check it out. They get married or they want to start giving birth and then they realize, whoa, all of this was going on. Why wait? That's why I'm proffering for you Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Just make your way to any of their branches and they'll screen you for these for free. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, they can be found at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Energy Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Just the start, though, of the news review, and I am joined by, you know how we do it on a Wednesday morning, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, you're looking beautiful this morning. Very handsome in your elegant dress. And I'm sure all those books behind you, you've likely read a lot of them. Good morning.
Lots. Good morning, Ben. How are you, my brother?
I hope you're well, Doc.
I'm good. I'm very
okay. The sound is a bit low. I think we'll try to get it up. I want to start on an interesting note. Football. I've noticed that in this AFCON, I don't know whether you followed, there's been talk about the $8.5 million that were budgeted for our Black Stars. And people have said that, look, incrementally, we've been throwing money away, throwing away good money after bad business or bad sports. And that there are other sports that also need attention. Even boxing. Boxing is struggling. The last I remember, even the person who won bronze for us in the last Olympics had some promises not fulfilled to him. The last I checked, scholarships and some sum of money that the president had promised him, among others. But if you look at this sum of money and the justifications I've heard some EXCO members give, that, Okujato Ablakwa shouldn't bring it up because during their term, they were also known for giving hefty sums, pumping hefty sums into this. But wait, what were the results? And two, do two wrongs make a right? No. Do two wrongs make a right? People have said things like, it's to divert attention from the MPP primaries. The same MPP primaries that we flogged over and again. I don't get it. When you talk about accountability for money in this country, people come up with all sorts of, pardon my language, silly reasons sometimes. Value for money. I'm not blaming the stars individually. I'm blaming the entire setup. The GFA, the systems that are not in place, coaches not given a free hand, manipulation, all kinds of things. If the Black Stars had gone to the next stage, 30,000 per player, 60,000 per member of the technical team, it doesn't make sense to me. But that's what it is. In the interim, I like how this AFCON is going because it is peppering all the known football nations, apart from Nigeria and the Ivory Coast. And the Ivory Coast went through by the skin of their teeth. who have progressed to the next stage. All the other countries you see there are minnows. From Mali to Cape Verde to South Africa. South Africa was not expected to beat Morocco. They beat them by 2-0. All of those teams there. In fact, interestingly, Doc, before I let you come in, the first to fifth nations in Africa's rankings, FIFA, from Morocco to Senegal to Tunisia, Algeria, all the way down to Egypt. All of them are out of this tournament. It should tell us something. That football is no longer a sport where you can go, oh, this is a small side. It's a minnow. It's an unknown. Only 2 countries in there. That is, I think 3, because South Africa won it once with Mark Fish and the rest. So South Africa, which other team is there? Nigeria and the Ivory Coast have won it before. All the others going to the quarterfinals have not. I don't know what your reflections are, because here we go again. They're talking about new managers and hiring and all of that. It's the same fan belt we're about to start rolling. Over to you, and if you have any thoughts after that, we'll get into the papers.
Yeah, Ben, you have said it right. We have got a lot wrong in terms of how to ensure value for money. We are not interested in that. You said it right. Issue of accountability is no. Meanwhile, we have a constitution which says in the preamble that anybody holding any public office must make yourself available for accountability one day. But where are we coming from? Are we not the people who voted massively to support the constitution to come into effect? We threw a lot of good money away, and sometimes careless, management of the people, resources, and all that. When I was a little boy at the Kropong, they used to play this zonal competition, district zones, national and all that, and they get the best teams ready. So you can have, so many groups who are ready to fit into all manner of groups.
There appears to be a challenge with Doc's feed. We'll try to remedy that. I'm sure it's an internet connectivity challenge. But you watching me this morning, what do you think? What do you think? Because if there are problems, it's either leadership is solving the problem or it is a part of the problem. Our football has dwindled over the last how many years? It's a conversation we ought to have. Everything broke, country broke. The Black Stars also can't be broke. In fact, they are broken. The country is broken. The Black Stars are broken. No joy anywhere. Replicating the words of our president back then. He spoke about economy gone bust and everything. Even the Black Stars, no win. Anyway, so we'll get into some of those interesting stories, but let me get into some of the headlines before Doc reconnects. 2.5 years after moving traders, Agbogloshi land lies waste, open defecation, refuse dumping, taking over. I am particularly disappointed in this because back then when this happened, I went to the news site and I hear they are doing brisk business at the news site, that things are actually going well, which I am happy about. But to find out that the Agbogloshi, where they were evicted from, is not being put to the best of use, looking at the vast expanse of land, makes me wonder why we even do these things. So that is the first story, which I will get into briefly when Doc reconnects with me. Then there's GHS, Interpol chase study leave defaulters. Then there's indigenous businesses critical to economic revival. That's according to John Mahama. December polls, don't sell your conscience to politicians. Reverend Dr. Makwe tells voters, I don't care, I don't care. NDC or MPP, they matter not. It is about what they can bring to bear. And even if not the NDC and the MPP, there are other parties that are coming up. Other people, other individuals who want to lead this country. Why don't we give some of them a chance rather than continue with this reckless, aimless fan belt of electing people who come and do practically nothing? Prestia Bogosu Mine not under care maintenance, Minerals Commission says so. On the back page, Ivorians eye further AFCON glory, and Ghana secures $700,000 share of AFCON prize money. I'll bring you details of that. Doc, are you back with me? Hello, Doc.
With you.
Okay, good to hear. So I was just, maybe before you go on, I was just reading this story. It feeds into the Black Stars issue, so I'll just take it and then you can react. Ghana's Black Stars are one of two teams set to receive a $700,000 consolation prize following their third place finish in Group B of the 2023 African Cup of Nations. Despite falling short of qualification for the knockout stages, their performance secured a share of the tournament's $34.6 million prize money. That is in dollars. The Black Stars' journey in the tournament included a 2-1 loss. I mean, let's not go there. I'll remind you of your pains. So let me leave it there. But the 4 losing quarterfinalists will each receive $1.3 million. The 2 losing semifinalists will be granted $2.5 million. And the winner will receive $4 million. Okay, so the losing finalist will get $4 million. And the winner will claim $7 million. And that's what we could have got if we had won our 5th AFCON. Back to you, Doc. Any quick thoughts before we move on?
Yes, I think, as I was saying, we need to ensure value for money and make sure that we get the right manpower to power the sports section, and make sure that all that we put into the development of the team, we get results. We don't have money. The little that we have, we need to ensure that we use them and use them very well.
All right. So I was talking about 2.5 years after moving traders, Agbogbloshie land lies waste, open defecation, refuse dumping taking over. So the 80-acre land that was reclaimed from the onion sellers at Agbogbloshie in Accra has become a site for open defecation and an unauthorized dump site. Now covered with piles of solid waste, the once vibrant settlement that hosted onion traders for decades is a far cry of the lofty intentions of the Greater Accra Regional Coordinating Council when it took the revolutionary action to relocate the traders in 2021. During a 3-day monitoring of the area, the Daily Graphic observed that the land was gradually reverting to its old toxic state as smoke had engulfed the entire area. Although the area has since been fenced, the wall appears only to protect the space from encroachments. Spaces seemingly meant for gates provide easy access to trespassers to aid their activities on the land. The land, which also hosts the old Fadama Clinic, has actually been exposed to a wide range of pollutants, and some members of the public have complained about the attendant health risks to health workers and patients. Now, in an interview with the Daily Graphic, the Greater Accra Regional Minister said it was the responsibility of the Ablekuma Central Municipal Assembly, the local authority with territorial jurisdiction, to protect the land. He said the GARCC had done its bit by securing the place and relocating the onion sellers and scrap dealers. So he says, quote, "It's not the regional minister's responsibility to prevent people from dumping refuse or defecating on the land. I took the risk of relocating the traders, something which couldn't be done in over 30 years. So I've done my part, and the rest is for the assembly to protect the place." Mr. Kwate, I humbly disagree with you. Totally. You've done your part. In 30 years, we have not been able to do it. You came and did this, and you think now, with what it has turned into, a dumping site and a defecation site, it's okay because that falls supposedly outside your purview. Are you not the regional minister? Doc, over to you.
I think it's unfortunate. If you don't need the land, why do you clear it? Need to allow people to have access and abuse the place. It's not an effective way of managing a resource such as this, looking at where it is situated.
80 acres.
At the heart of the city. All right. Very, 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 it's a sorry story. And I think the regional minister should look sharp and deal with this head on. The blame game will not help anybody. We are going to, be engulfed with all manner of illnesses and all that. And he, as a regional minister, when there is a problem, health problem, he will be very much be called upon to address this. So the earlier he handled this, the better. than pushing the blame onto others. It's not good enough.
Now, I'll do some stories from page 13 and then 16 and 17. Then maybe we'll go on the international front. Don't sell your conscience to politicians. Now, the founder of the Living Streams International, Reverend Dr. Ebenezer Markwei, has asked the citizenry not to sell their conscience to politicians by resisting all forms of inducements intended to influence their votes in this year's elections. He said anytime politicians wanted power, they made efforts to induce people with money and other items to vote for them. But once they won, they failed to promote the interests of the masses. Quoting him, he says, "It is disrespectful for politicians to bring you money to influence you to vote for them. When your vote is bought, it is disrespectful to you, and that means your destiny can be bought." That's what he shared. Then, GHS Interpol chase study leave defaulters. Now, the Ghana Health Service is working with Interpol to identify and trace health workers who were granted study leave with pay to pursue programs but failed to return to serve their bond terms on completion of their courses. The move is aimed at compelling those beneficiaries to refund the salaries they enjoyed to enable them undertake their studies in and outside Ghana. Some of the beneficiaries were said to have even abandoned their courses or absconded without any notification. Then there is this story: indigenous businesses critical to nation's economic revival. John Mahama says so. Former President John Mahama said the role of the Council of Indigenous Business Associations in the country's economic revival is critical. He therefore said, as a baby nurtured by the NDC, quote, "We look forward to working very closely with you in terms of how we can transform your businesses." I'll ask the former president about how much transformation they brought to business when he was in his first term. Yes, you did something, but what else happened? How about Dumso and the rest, and how it impacted business? So it's a lot more than just the talk, Mr. Former President. CPA kicks against 15% VAT on electricity. The Consumer Protection Agency has kicked against the 15% value-added tax imposed on household electricity consumption. Any quick thoughts on any of these, Doc?
Yes, I'll look at vote buying and the rest of them. It's unfortunate. We keep talking about vote buying, but the politicians continue to enjoy the trade and then the benefit that come out of this. Once you sell your vote, you have sold your destiny, you sold your conscience, and you have nothing to hold whoever you have given your vote to when the need arises. So we should be very careful that how much is it that they even give you for you to give your vote to them. They are just insulting your conscience.
Yeah.
So vote based on issues, and let us remember that anybody who comes to us with money to influence you is not ready to serve you. So get those people out, because we say politicians are servants. If you are coming to serve me, imagine you are at your home and somebody said, well, I would like to serve you, but I'm paying a bribe in order to serve you. You'll be very much suspicious of that person who is coming to your home.
Right.
The same vein, we have to take this issue seriously, that anybody who comes around with money without telling us how we can deal with our problems in our localities, communities, and all that, vote them out. It's a very simple matter.
Then there is don't sell your conscience to politicians, of course. The bit about the Interpol chasing Ghana Health Service and Interpol chasing study leave defaulters. I'm sure you know about that, because yes, teachers also fall into that bracket.
Yes, I think it's a good story. I support that. They should chase them so that, because you see, the state struggle more often than not to get resources to fund this type of enterprise, especially skills that we don't have them here.
Right.
Go get knowledge and come back and serve your society. You think you are so wise, you go, you don't want to return. That's unfair. You block the avenues of others who would genuinely want to go, right, but at the time of when they are ready, the resources will not be available. So I am on the side of those, the state chasing those people.
But I also know, Doc, that sometimes these people react that way because they feel, but wait, you see, sometimes with all these scholarships and paid leaves and all of that, they are political. They are political. So members of whichever party is in power, would likely benefit more. So they also feel I am justified. I'm telling you about what some of these people have said in the past.
Yes, you're right.
They are like, oh, I buy sika, say, oh, see a part in a washo, then they get it. So they knew that they got the thing in itself through party orchestrations. So they feel they are not entitled to pay. I mean, that also happened with Maslock at a point. They felt like it's our party, so we must chop the money and we don't have to pay back. That is the mentality. Once you have that mentality, we shouldn't act like pretend. We shouldn't pretend we don't know. This is the reality. So a chunk of them, if you went in there, you would find party members. You would find people directly affiliated to the party. And so they feel justified in not paying back, forgetting that it's not party money, it is state money.
That is where they even get it wrong, because, look, you should be able to give people who are qualified for these facilities. It should be based on merit, nothing more, nothing else. But even if you have given to politicians, now they need to master the same courage as they give to them and then collect the money back. We will look forward to that. And then if they don't do that, we should be able to hold them accountable.
Indigenous businesses critical to nation's economic revival. John Mahama, you heard me on.
Yes.
And then CPA kicks against 15% VAT on electricity. Any thoughts?
Yes, indigenous business. This has been the backbone of every meaningful economy. So you need to support them, inject more resources in for them to be able to produce for the state. We, more often than not, we throw money into this. We don't monitor anything. And then the money sometimes are given to even political actors. Those who are in dire need of such resources are out of reach of them. And it creates all manner of problems.
Hello, Doc. Hello, Doc. It appears we don't have Doc with us. The connection has left us again. We'll try to get him back. Let's try one more time. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, can you hear me? I guess the feed is frozen. So let me look at these stories on the international front. When we have Dr. Asah-Asante back, we'll try and get him to respond. Nigeria rebukes states for quitting regional bloc. It's become funny, isn't it? Anyway, that story on page 5. Nigeria has accused Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger of letting their people down by quitting the Economic Community of West African States. It is the first comment from the chair of the economic and political body since the three governments announced their decision to leave on Sunday. The three states were already suspended from ECOWAS after recent coups. But, like you would hear me, my interactions with Colonel Festus Abuaje, retired, of course, Professor Enning, and all the others. How about in the Ivory Coast, for example, where Alassane Ouattara has twisted the constitution and gone for a term that he didn't deserve? How about the other things going on in the sub-region? The manipulation. How about how these leaders of ours, these misleaders from Nigeria to Ghana to everywhere, allow all this foreign influence? I am not a fan of coup d'etats. I always say here, I have seen wars before. Many people my age in Ghana, some much older, have not even seen what war is like. I have. So I'm in a good position to say we shouldn't go there. But when these regional leaders do what they do, turn a blind eye to everything that is happening, and these things happen, and you continue to do what you do, and they opt out, ECOWAS is crumbling. That's the reality. I put the question to Professor Enning the other day, and he agreed. It is crumbling. And it's because of piss-poor leadership. And if it crumbles, we lose everything. So Nigeria rebuking the states for quitting the regional bloc. I thought they said they were going to trigger the military option. What happened to that? Fancy talk. South Africa's ruling ANC suspends membership of ex-leader Zuma. Guess what? He's formed the party Umkhonto Wesizwe, which basically means, I read it on the BBC yesterday, I think it means spear of the nation. I don't see it here, but I think that's what it means. And he says, while he says he's going to be a member of the ANC for life, though he's been suspended, he says he has to give credibility to the people of South Africa, which is why he's formed this party. The ANC is very peeved because this likely means it's going to lose votes in the coming elections. And of course, well, this is likely going to be the most competitive election South Africa has had. Doc, so I'm talking about Nigeria rebuking the three states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. I think ECOWAS is just joking right now. And South Africa suspending, the ANC suspending ex-leader Zuma on the international front. Any quick reactions before we leave the Daily Graphic?
Yeah, look at the ECOWAS story. It's very worrying. And part of the problem is the lack of leadership on the part of the economic bloc. Whilst they kick against some of these military regimes, at the same time, they allow for third-term agenda to fester and all that. You are very close to us, Cote d'Ivoire and the rest of them. That is not to say that you support military rule. I am also surprised about the courage of the three countries who say that they want to leave the bloc and all that. Is it the case that they want a military regime to be maintained and all that? It's a whole mix of, factors that is contributing to this scenario that we are not comfortable with. But the main issue is that ECOWAS has lost it. Leadership is in crisis. Right. And over the years, we have not been able to handle issues the way it ought to be handled. And that is what has brought us thus far.
Anyway, in the sporting front, I see my very own Muftau Nabila Abdullahi there with Joy Sports. In terms of the GFA sitting up and the Black Stars failing at the AFCON, he says nothing beats preparation. I believe Ghana's consistent failure in major competitions is due to the haphazard approach to these tournaments. It appears Ghana prepares for these tournaments a few days before the competition, when leaders are actually supposed to have long-term plans with targets to be achieved. And U.S. weapons sales abroad hit record high in 2023. All right, there's also the Pakistani PM and the accusation. I heard that story. Former PM jailed in state secrets case. And he stopped short of mentioning the United States, but he waved a document pointing to the fact that there was manipulation. And he could receive hefty sentences for that. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, fight against corruption. OSP's powers must expand to ensure effective corruption fight. Special prosecutor. He says he should the office should be represented on the Judicial Council, but some have said, to what end? Why? Does he want to influence judges now? So there are two sides of the debate. And of course, that is on the back of the latest Corruption Perception Index, where we are still ranked, is it 73rd or 79th? And we are still scoring 43. 4 years, 43 has been our highest score. Two locked up 45 years for robbing banker at gunpoint. Minerals Commission promises to protect Prestia Bogosumain jobs. And new Subin parliamentary candidate-elect sex record straight. Vows to increase votes for MPP. So let's take a quick look at which ones will we do. The story on page 3 and 9. So Benjamin Abwaje, musician, has been sentenced to 35 years imprisonment by the Adenta Circuit Court for robbing a banker at gunpoint at Pantang, Accra. This was after Abwaje, 28, was found guilty at the end of the trial on charges of conspiracy to commit robbery and robbery. The court presided over by Mrs. Sedinam Awo Baloka, sentenced the accused, also known as Rapture. Well, he's received his rapture, to 20 years on the charge of conspiracy and 35 years on the charge of robbery. There's also man jailed 15 years for defiling girl in church. A 27-year-old man who had sex with a 14-year-old girl in a church at Souto Makra has been sentenced to 15 years imprisonment. Page 9. The special prosecutor, Mr. Kesia Jabing, has said calls by a section of the public for the office of the special prosecutor to be scrapped were, quote, unwholesome, as this could hinder the country's fight against corruption. According to him, an objective evaluation of the attempts to unfairly and unjustly discredit the OSP and its principal officers depended on whether a person and his associates were at the short end of an investigation carried out by the office. He was speaking as one of the 4 panelists at a roundtable discussion organized by the Center for Democratic Development. And some of the other things he mentions are what I have mentioned to you. Any quick reactions to any of these stories, Doc? Hello, Doc. Well, it appears Doc's connection is frozen again. We'll try to get him back. On the back page, Cape Verde has more to prove. And that's Jamiro Monteiro says his side has more to prove following their qualification to the quarterfinals of the Total Energies CAF Africa Cup of Nations Côte d'Ivoire 2023. And I support them. Let them go out there and prove their mettle, unlike what's shoddy, shambolic work we did. AFCON 2023, Côte d'Ivoire stand holders Senegal in a shootout. Those stories on the back page. Let's see when we return, when Doc gets back to us, what he'd like to return to. Doc, can you hear me? Okay. Now, the Daily Guide 2024 elections. Parties want November date. Which parties, though? Kumasi Herbal Doctor dead. Pictured there, Dr. Grace Bwedu. And Men's Gold extorted customers. That's according to a witness. Pictured there, Nana Appiah Mensah, popularly known as Nam1. Ghana maintains corruption index position, and I remain committed to MPP. Story on page 6. Find out who's saying that. So let's look at those 2 stories. The Electoral Commission has announced that about 60% of political parties have endorsed its proposal to hold this year's presidential and parliamentary elections in November. Deputy Chairman of the EC in charge of corporate services, Dr. Bosman Eric Asari, who disclosed this, indicated that at an inter-party advisory committee meeting held on Monday, the parties urged the commission to proceed with a plan provided it can be legally implemented. He added, however, that the majority of the parties agreed that if the EC was unable to carry out the processes this year, it should start in 2028. So in principle, quoting, all the parties that attended IPAC yesterday were for it for 2028. But for 2024, almost 60% of the parties, more than half of the parties, said if it would be possible for the EC to go through the legal processes to have it implemented this year, let's go ahead. I don't know. I really don't know with this bit about a November electoral date. Why? So every time an issue comes up, we're going to change it? I don't know. Any quick thoughts on this November date for elections, Doc?
Yes. Before I start, let me touch on this corruption perception index. You realize that we are simply just talking. We are not ready to deal with this problem. Yesterday, I had the chief of staff trying to justify and all that. She cannot justify anything. Her party has failed to deal with corruption because the argument that they are pumping a lot of resources and all that, they've taken, come out with all manner of powerful policies and all that. Where are the results? Where's the evidence? What we need to do is not to clear people when they accuse them of corruption. You allow state institutions to handle this. You stop buying votes. Politicians should stop that. These are the things that are captured in the data of corruption and the rest of them. Look at the issue of what? Even deceiving people into believing that you are fighting corruption. From 2013 up to date, which of the regimes have done so well in terms of corruption? The performance of this government has been abysmal from 2017 up to date. The highest they've gone is what, 43%. And if you read the report says that if you have less than, your score is less than 50, you have serious corruption problem. And what is so worrying also is that they've tied justice to it. That the justice system has also failed to punish people, and that has given people the courage, the opportunity to do what they are doing. we need to be serious about this, that the institutions that are at the forefront of corruption, let them be given resources, let us strengthen them, and let them work the way they ought to. And once you allow them to work freely, I believe strongly we will have results. And then let us not pretend that all is well. It is not. We should do self-soul searching and then come to the realization that, look, we need to fight this battle head on. So far, what we have done has brought nothing to us. We must be able to get to the basis and start everything afresh.
When you said so far what we have done, what came to mind was, we've played Chaskili with the whole thing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
We played Chaskili with it. Anyway, a November voting date. What do you make of it?
I don't get it. Why do you want to change the date? Why? I mean, they should convince us with very good reason why they want to change the date and all that. What is important is that the Electoral Commission will put its house in order so that when they announce results, they will not come back the next day to write a rejoinder to the results that they have announced earlier on. It creates confusion. They should also make sure that you have document. I mean, you get all the people who are supposed to be part of this process in there, and then listen to them and allow discussion to take place so that at the end of every enterprise, we are able to arrive at something that is meaningful. So far, it's been much of a talk and a talk and a talk. Look at the last election. About 8 people were gunned down. Up to date, nobody want to cough about this. These are things that should worry Electoral Commission. Even though when we mention this thing, they will say that, well, we are not in charge of security and all that. But if the system is insecure, can you organize your election? So it is incumbent upon them to be interested in the security of the electoral process, because this time around, nobody will countenance any mishap that relate to election. No. We want to make sure that we get the best election, we are paid for it, and that we need the best for our society, so that the leaders who will come out will be nothing but the true reflection of the people that we put into office.
Right. Doc, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'll just leave with these headlines. No real reactions because we've run out of time. But the new finder: we must trust state institutions to fight corruption. Chief of Staff. I find it as funny as you found it, Doc. Anti-corruption fight showing no improvement. That's according to the CPI. Mishandling of Mali, Burkina, and Niger could spark food insecurity. That's according to Guta, and the Professor Innings have spoken about this. And finally, Today newspaper: who can revoke government's license? It's Papa Kwesi Ndum who is asking on the back of the GN Savings and Loans bid. And he said something interesting. He said it on Amansan television in Accra. Who revokes licenses of the government when it fails to pay back money borrowed from people? If the government is unable to pay its debt it owes individuals, it simply means that the nation is bankrupt and has a liquidity crisis. Well, that's how we'll sew it up. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us for the news review this morning. All right, that is Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies. Before we get into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. They're offering you prostate screening for free, fertility screening for free. Catch them at any of their branches: Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard; Kumasi, Kronoma Buehia behind the Angel Educational Complex; Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiaman Zima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. The top 5 footballing nations in Africa are out of the AFCON. But who is in? Sports up next.